Well, hey, on today's episode, we have a artist and creative. I'm really excited to share this conversation with you. Come on, welcome to the show, Jason DeMeo. How you been, dude?
Good.
Good?
We're getting through this heat wave right now. It feels like I'm in Florida up here in Tennessee.
I know, dude. It's crazy. I was talking to somebody in Maine the other day, and they were like, "Oh, we're just trying to survive this heat," and it's like, man, you wouldn't last a minute in Florida, dude.
No,
it's been 100 for the last like 4 weeks, and
gosh,
we're cool with it, dude. Are you guys liking Tennessee?
Yeah, we love it.
Yeah.
Great community. I mean, Franklin's an awesome city, just good people.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, and there's always something to do in Nashville. And so, yeah, we're really enjoying the community, the opportunities, and yeah, it's been great.
That's cool, man. Yeah. Obviously we know somebody that's moving to Nashville soon too, but I have a couple friends up there that or I feel like over just the last year or two, I know a lot of people that moved up to Tennessee, and not even just from Florida, but from Texas or Arizona, moved over that area. Does it feel like it's pretty packed where you live now, or?
No. Franklin still has a really just slow pace. I mean, there's a lot going on here, and it's growing. I think it's just really kind of upgrading rather than getting congested. We're getting really nice places to eat and bakeries, and I don't know. It seems like there's more culture coming than just people. So, seems like a win-win right now. And Nashville's, I mean, there's some, hit traffic going up to Nashville, but it's nothing like I-4. So,
dude,
that is one big upgrade, probably the biggest upgrade.
Hey, they opened up a lane.
Not being on I-4.
They opened up a lane on I-4. Yeah, and it's so funny because this is to anybody else that's listening to this show that's not anywhere near Florida. That's such the smallest thing, but it's makes a world of difference, dude. When we go to because when you would go to Disney from here, it would be an hour, easy to get to Disney 45 minutes. Takes us 25, 30 minutes now.
Dude,
it changes
that's
everything.
Amazing.
Yeah, it's still a lot
really
of traffic, but an extra lane makes such a difference, dude.
Is it like a HOV? You can go fast in this lane, or just as literally?
Yeah, no, I think it's just
line?
a simple. It's just an extra lane, but it's not even the whole way. It's really not until you get closer to Champions Gate. But still, when you get there, it's that extra lane, and you're oh, okay, this feels so much more helpful. You know?
Yeah, that's cool.
So yeah, man, it's cool. Do you guys go up to Nashville a lot?
A good bit, yeah. We're only 20, 25 minutes kind of from where we're at. We're in kind of the northern Franklin area, which is funny because I grew up in Pennsylvania in North Franklin is where I lived, and now I live in North Franklin. So it's just
it's crazy.
Kind of a funny full circle thing.
I forgot you're from PA. Is that Philly side or Pittsburgh side?
Pittsburgh side.
Oh, yeah. Okay. Gotcha. We lived up in Harrisburg for a little while, right?
Oh, I think I did know that.
Yeah. We moved up there for a couple years. We moved back. Yeah, dude, there's a couple things that we were just talking about that today, actually. I miss the mountains, and I miss some of the hiking and some of the outdoor stuff you can do in PA. I don't miss the winter. That was rough.
No,
crazy.
I think Tennessee's probably the highest we'd ever go.
Yeah.
It's either, California, Tennessee. We like the warm. The seasons are great. We really did enjoy going through a full season. It was or 4 seasons. It's really once it gets to January and February, and it's just the cold is dragging on. It's just kind of gray, and we're okay, now's when we really miss Florida.
Yeah.
So then we're trying to figure out almost January and February, if we can get down to warmth. That kind of gets you through.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, that'd be the dream, really, is to have a couple spots someday. But for now, we just got to get down to Florida a little bit and get the warmth and come back. But we've enjoyed the seasons and enjoyed the people, and it's been awesome.
That's cool, man. Well, dude, thanks for being on the show. I don't know if you even knew this or not. I started the podcast about honestly, Wayne and I were just talking about it. It's been almost a year now. Started last August, and just having like cool conversations with cool people, and your name came up a bunch of times. So I was like, man, I got to get Jason on the podcast. So I'm glad we can make it work, man. Yeah. How has like, I mean, obviously maybe a lot of people either know of you or don't know, will know from listening to the show, but obviously a couple years ago, I'd love to get into how you got into like your art and kind of in that space as well. How's that been going lately?
Great. I mean, lots of momentum. One of the reasons we moved up here was just bigger city, bigger creativity. I mean, there's definitely creativity happening in Tampa, Orlando. You got Miami, that's a huge center for creativity.
Sure.
But as a visual artist, it's really like kind of like Miami, LA, New York City are kind of the hotbeds. Mm-hmm. And then Nashville's not like huge visual artist scene, but there's just so much creativity happening here musically that I think there's a lot of spillover. And we felt like, okay, let's just get around creatives, but then also it feels like there's a growing visual arts community here that I can kind of join up with and be a part of, rather than like being like, oh my gosh, there's so much entrenched, galleries and artists. And it's like, okay, I'm like a tiniest fish in the biggest pond. I'm kind of like a medium fish in a medium big pond here. So I can kind of like grow with it, I think.
That makes sense. Yeah. Cause I feel like, I get what you're saying too. It's like Nashville's also a really like growing city and a lot of cool stuff happening out of there. New York,
totally.
Yeah, you're the one out of 100,000 people that are also doing that same thing.
And just cost of living, like all that crazy stuff. And we honestly had so much community here already. Mm-hmm. I mean, the amount of just the social calendar in Franklin and Nashville is hot. Like there's always something going on.
Yeah.
You got to be like, I can't go out. Like, and I'm an introvert, so I'm like, I got to work. I got to be in my studio. I can't. But I do feel so blessed that we had community here just so quickly, that it felt really home-like for Hillary, for Ellie, for everybody real quick here. So
that's cool. Yeah, because that makes a world of difference, dude. That was a huge thing when we like moved back to Lakeland. It was like we liked where we were like cool in Pennsylvania and close to family. Yeah. But just the community aspect, we're like, man, we miss that so much. Because that can really make or break a place. Like even if you live in the coolest city in the world, if you're all by yourself, then it's like not worth it, you know?
Might be worse. Yeah.
Yeah, like, it actually might be worse for you. Yeah, because I've had those conversations with people before. They're like, man, I got to move to New York or move to LA or wherever. Yeah. It's like, yeah, cool places. Like, do you know anybody there? Because like if it's just you all by yourself, like going to these cool coffee shops, that's gonna get old, like, pretty quick. Yeah. Well, totally, dude. I love to get into just some of like the art stuff. I know like kind of even prior to that, you and Hillary have like been in the creative space, right? You'd say for like kind of a while. Like you guys were kind of leading creatives through different businesses. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Totally. Our first business we ever did together was called We Are Curio. Yeah. And I strike that. I actually started a vintage. I was selling vintage items on Etsy as my very first business. So that was fun. Became a bit of a logistical nightmare. I was working on staff at a church at the time, actually, Oasis Community Church. Yeah. So I was just like, it was just too much. So we put that aside. But during that process of me exploring aesthetics and just like interior design, unique objects, I kind of got obsessed with just like reading and going to art museums. And then I also found a book called Creative Confidence by David Kelly. And David Kelly's from the IDEO crew, which is like out in California. They've worked with Apple and all these, major companies, but they're a consultancy that focuses on human-centered design thinking. So it was the first time that I ever read anything about like creativity and leadership that really like clicked in my mind. I was like, oh, this is how I would, like to lead as a person. So got really obsessed with it. Got to go to like a little mini certificate at Harvard and like in design thinking. And so then just kind of like I launched the business. Hillary was still working at Southeastern at the time. And I was, just getting it off the ground, doing workshops. And Hillary was like, I want to come on board and like scale this with you. And she's definitely the maximizer of the crew. And so she came on board and we were off to the races. So that was our real first business, I feel like. And that we ran that for 5-6 years, right up until about COVID, when we're doing 150 person trainings, gatherings, certifying people in design thinking is things like rocking and rolling. We've got a team, and then COVID hits and like almost all our stuff was in-person stuff, and we didn't make that digital transition very well, nor did we really like enjoy it. So we were just like, I was probably at the edge of burnout there too, just doing a lot of contract work, like retainer creativity for people, innovation work.
Yeah.
And it just kind of like, I was tired of helping other people be creative. And I was like, I think I need some space here to just like be by myself and have full control over something rather than like consulting someone on something. So art seemed like a great place to do that. That became just kind of like a side project thing for me. Hi, buddy.
I love it.
Little lake man's busting in. And so I just kind of cleared out a back bedroom and just started copying some of the people that I thought were great in the 50s and 60s of abstract expressionist movement. And so, we had big white walls in our house, and I was like, we need something on them. So I just kind of like let that be my really a healing outlet for me, a creative outlet for me. Had been going through a lot of just like loss during that time, just kind of some, just mental health issues. And I'm like, I just needed this. So art really was an outlet for me to grow as a person. And then it kind of became something after that. Like my friends started celebrating it. I threw a show that first year and started scheming for like, okay, how can I turn this into a full-time gig? And so that took about, I'd say 3-4 years until it really became full-time. And then I've probably been doing it maybe 3-ish years now, as like full-time. That's my main thing. So it's been a fun journey to get here, and grateful that I'm here.
That's cool, man. Yeah. I guess I didn't realize all the pieces of that story. Like obviously I know you and know, like we've known each other for a little while. Didn't know like all the pieces of that being more like a healing process from just like a stressful time. Dude, that's where I feel like, I don't know if you can speak to this. I know a lot of people in my life, or just heard those stories where like people don't do what you did. Like they're just burnt out and they're fried, and they don't, not to call what you do a hobby, but just like find a hobby or find something that can like help relieve like stress or whatever. And they just keep going at that grindstone like nonstop until they do something really destructive with their life, you know? Like, I feel like that's the other option, you know?
I really do think it is. And I think I do have a pretty decent internal compass that kind of goes off where I'm like, I can feel that I'm either running too hard, like even with the Curio thing, the Weird Curio thing, where we're like doing all this consulting, I was just kind of like hitting a red line, and I knew I had to like get off of this, or else I was going to implode something. Like I don't know what was going to go wrong, but I was just too stressed, too anxious. It was just not a good fit for me.
Yeah.
And so I think I can see that like all throughout my life, like even like pastoring, like I was a spiritual formation pastor for 5 years. And towards the end of that, it wasn't necessarily like, I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm so burnt out. Like I got to get out of the church, whatever. I could just feel like my heart shifting where I was like, I don't think I have the same level of like care that this role needs. Like I don't have the depth of care that a pastor really needs for so many people. And I think it is challenging to be a true like pastor as an introvert. I think speaking and like preaching is a different thing. That's more performance. But doing the actual pastoral care work is a lot. It takes a lot.
It takes a special type of person for sure.
Yeah. I think some people are just cut out for that. And I could just tell I wasn't that guy. And so, started like this new kind of S curve that I could see with creativity and entrepreneurship. And so I think I kind of like try to watch for those things in my life and like why I'm feeling out of order or just not in my full self. And then like, okay, how do I keep and honor what I'm doing right now while also growing something else so that I have an off ramp for something in the future.
It's a good thing to
and then
no, go ahead.
No, I was just gonna say the other thing is like, I mean, Andrew played tennis for 7 years too. Like, I knew I needed some kind of competitive outlet for my life too, and I've noticed that that's really helpful for me too. It keeps me grounded every week. I play pickleball and tennis every week up here.
Yeah.
But it's like if I don't have those things, I start getting a little grumpy, a little crabby. The two things are like tennis and pickleball, and then if I'm not making art, like if I'm not being creative, I start getting depressed. I get a little bit just cranky. It's like, so Hillary's always like, okay, have you been painting and have you missed like your pickleball or tennis? And it's like, usually that fixes a lot.
Yeah, for sure. Well, it's good to just like be aware, right? Like I think in two ways, like the one is like you mentioned there too, of like people like in ministry and having that kind of like that, like being something you can actually do. I think about this whenever I look back on like when I first moved to Southeastern. I was like early like 2012 or 13 or something like that. And I moved there and like there had to have been hundreds and hundreds of like future youth pastors. Like everybody was going to be a youth pastor, you know? And I was like, dang. And now I look back on that where I was like, I think that was more of just like the expectation was everybody's like, oh, I have to be a youth pastor, as far as like thinking about like, there's definitely roles within the church that you could be like fitting better for your type of personality trait or just being aware of that. But also just like, marketplace or whatever. But yeah, I guess to that point of like being aware, and then two, I feel like a lot of people's hesitation with either, you know, maybe it's like taking a risk or even just trying to find something that can help you have better life balance tends to be like the finances involved, the money involved, you know? It's like, oh, if I take a risk, it's like, what if I ruin everything, you know?
Yeah.
Did you have, how did you handle that moment or was it, what was your method?
I feel like, I mean, me and Hillary have always been like pretty aligned on the way we approach our finances. And so that's been a real strength in our marriage, where it's like, we're both frugal, responsible kind of people, but we're also like not like hoarders. Like we're like, okay, like if it's time to go for something and like take a risk, like this is where faith has got to come in. So I think we try to be like, do our due diligence. But then also, like when it's time to make that leap, you got to take that leap. So every one of them, I think that if I look back on, the possibility of financial problems was there every single time, you know? So it's like, when Hillary left Southeastern, she was supposed to like hold it down for us for a minute with like a real job while I was getting it off the ground.
Sure.
And then she was like, no, we can do this together. And I was like, well, we got $30K in our savings, and like that's our burn rate. So I mean, businesses talk about burn rate, and it's like that's also individuals have a burn rate too, where it's like if you've set aside money, you're like, okay, this is going to cover us for whatever 6 months, 5 months, whatever. If we don't do it by then, I mean, we got to figure something out. So I don't know. I think there is a sense that like at every juncture of new development and new faith in your life, I think that God kind of tests you with your money a little bit, where it's like, I don't think you should be, again, you shouldn't be irresponsible with your money. I think you should prepare for your future. But I do think there's a sense where God has checked our hearts at every one of those junctures that says like, all right, who do you serve here? Like, and it's like, and you feel that pull inside of you. Like, man, I actually feel that pull. Like money is giving me security. And not God. And like, I think God's like, I think he uses those moments to really help us check our hearts. And I think most of the time we've leaned into those and said like, God, like we trust you. And that doesn't always mean too, like we got fabulously wealthy after every time we've done that. Like there's been financial, hardships. There's been things we've had to go through, but I think it's just really about getting more free as a person, being bringing more of who you are to the world. And that is invaluable, I think. So,
And I think it's just good for people to hear those stories, honestly, just hearing that you made it, you know what I mean? Like that you made it on the other side. Cause that's the usual is like, what's going to happen to me. And it's like, you hear somebody that went for it, maybe had some bumps along the road, but like we can all withstand some bumps along the road, but it's like, hey, there is like, and there's things you definitely have to do. Like it kind of brings back into like, if you're able to take this jump, is also just like being a disciplined person, like disciplined in your health or disciplined in your finances or like your relationship and walk with God. Like, cause that'll be like, I believe if you're like, disciplined in your walk with God, then you'll have the faith to make that jump. That's going to be right for you,
Yeah. And it gives you like, I've been thinking about this phrase a lot lately, to just be where you're supposed to be. It's like what I feel like God's like teaching in my life right now. Cause I haven't always been the most disciplined person. And that whenever I'm not disciplined, that's when I start feeling a little uncertain about life, because I feel like that's the side that I can take care of. Like God's got to figure out how to create the right opportunities for me, to bring the finances I need to take care of my family. But like, I can take care of like working hard, and like I can take care of resting and getting the right amount of sleep and working out and managing my time well. And I think whenever I'm doing those things consistently, it gives me that sense of like even more faith, because I'm like, God, like it really is all on you. Like I'm doing what you're asking, not in the sense of like hustle and grind and like all that. I'm just like being on my mark. And I think the more you do that, the more you feel that confidence in yourself that like, I'm partnering faith and works together. Because faith, I mean, it's like, I feel like sometimes God's like, hey, like, I appreciate your faith, but like, you're not working. Like,
right.
And vice versa. It's like, I feel like God's sometimes like, man, like, I appreciate how much work you're putting into this, but you're like burning out. Like, you need to have faith. That, like, so I think that faith and works is such a beautiful thing, because it does give us, it puts responsibility on both of us. Like, so, and I think that's when things really get cooking, whenever you can get both of those working.
For sure. Yeah. The thing that came to my mind, and I feel like I know this is the cliche, like analogy, but it is like with all forms of discipline, not just like the like health side, but I feel like your spiritual side, your mental side, you're like, are you having fun and just enjoying life, is like related to like, if you've been like working out or active, if you've been running or working out or doing something, it typically takes a couple of weeks before you like feel the benefits. It takes a little while before you actually feel like, oh man, like I feel locked in. I feel like a better husband, a better dad, all this stuff. And then also on the other side of it is like, after stopping doing it, it takes a couple of weeks or a couple of days or so for you to realize like, oh man, what's wrong with me right now? And it's like, oh, I haven't been locked in, and I got to build that back up.
Yes,
dude, because
for sure.
I've felt that, and not even like, I'm not talking years ago. I felt that probably like a month or so ago, just being honest, like getting out of the rhythm and being like, dude, I got to go for a run, or I got to do something,
I mean, summer's been a little weird too, where it's like, I don't know, I had my rhythms with, I'm taking Ellie to school every day, and then I'm up and I'm doing my thing. And like, then summer kind of hits and you're like, okay, I got to work. But then like family wants to go to the pool. And then it's like, it kind of like throws. So I've been kind of even, last month, even just wrestling with that a little bit. Like, okay, like what does summer lock in look like? Cause like I got to lock in work.
Two
but
kids
also,
is
like,
no joke.
It is a time to like lock in with your kids, like, and enjoy that too. So I think it's just more about cutting off the fluff, the scrolling the phone, the staying up late and watching too much Netflix. Like, I think that stuff always, to me, is alluring as a introvert, where it's like, oh man, I'm gonna make myself a charcuterie board and watch 2 hours of Netflix here, and then in the morning you're like, oh dang, why did I do that? Now I slept in. Now I got work to do. Now the family wants to go to the pool. It's like it piles up. So you're just really self-sabotaging, is what I've learned a lot, is like when you're not locking in and doing the disciplines that you're supposed to be doing, it really is just, it ends up being self-sabotage, and
so
nobody
true,
wants
dude.
that.
Yeah. Honestly, if I could be honest on this show too, that's where I've been at lately, where like I'm I am like jealous of a lot of friends who just don't do social media anymore. Like when they tell me, they're like, I just don't do it. And I think about my, like, obviously, like even with the podcast of like, oh man, I kind of need this to post about the show or whatever. Yeah. But I'm like, dude, if I could just unplug for a week, like I would just love it. And there's that pull between like what's needed, what's necessary. That's what I'm even going through. But I find myself doing that sometimes, where I'm scrolling and I'm like, how long has it been? Where am I? I've been standing in this room for like an hour or whatever. Maybe not
an
hour.
What
That's
did I get
exaggerated,
out of it? Like,
I got nothing. Yeah.
Yeah, like a couple laughs and like, some interesting thing. But
Yeah.
every time I go down to my studio and work for 2 hours on art, I walk out and I'm like, oh, I feel great. Like I created something. I did something. So yeah, I think it goes back to probably consumption versus creativity. Getting into the gym as a creative act for your body. Like if you're in that mode of creativity rather than consuming, I think that puts you in a much better head and heart space. Not that you never consume. We consume food, we consume media, we consume all kinds of things. But when consumption becomes your main kind of vehicle for feeling good or whatever, I think you just start feeling empty at the end. And then you're like, I need to create.
For sure. Yeah. That's actually how I feel with this show. Like this is my, like, that creative flow too, which is fun. I'd say, when was the moment for you? Because obviously it became just a thing where it's like, oh, I'd like to try this out and like do this as like a healing process, or it was like a, just something to do for fun. What was it like, the moment where it clicked, where it's like, oh man, I could keep doing this, like, or this could be a full-time thing?
Yeah, I think I threw my first show at my house and just invited friends and people bought art. And so that was like a validating thing. And then I had a couple galleries just kind of reach out, like on Instagram, which is not rare, but kind of rare. And just like, hey, we saw your work. We want to represent you. And I was like, oh gosh, like this is great. Galleries are reaching out to me. Cool, my friends are buying my work. Like,
dude, I think I have one of your first ones.
Yeah, that's right.
I have the one that's like about this big. It's like in a frame. Yeah, it's at our house.
Sick.
Yeah, dude, that was like at a farmer's market or something like that, right?
Totally. I was going wherever.
Good times.
But yeah, I think that just kind of like validated me. And I do think there is a sense of like beginner's luck a little bit where, okay, like you've put yourself out there. I think God, I think even the universe, people, it just kind of rewards your courage a little bit. And then it kind of gets down to the real work. So it's like, I think that like I had some like wins up front that made me feel like, oh man, I can make this happen. And then like there was kind of this like middle stage of like, okay, how do I actually make this consistently financially viable? And so even now, I mean, I'm 5-6 years in and we're still like really retooling that to figure out, because one, it was really hard. I was not a trained artist. I didn't go to school for art. So I had to kind of figure out my own creative and artistic language. And that took 3 or 4 years to really even feel like I have some mastery over what I'm doing rather than experimentation. So I feel like right now I'm in a really good place where I'm like, okay, I have my own language. I kind of understand what I'm doing with the art when I go into my studio. Now I need to figure out how to like sustainably scale this and really work on the business side of things, because I've worked on the creative side of things for a while. Now it's like, okay, let's like mobilize this skill and this art and really like put some business behind it. So yeah, you're always learning.
Kind of the pieces you don't think about and like going into that where you're like, oh, there is the business aspect of it.
Right.
Yeah. Dude, has there been a moment for you? Because obviously you've been doing this for years, and I've been following along, and I'm sure like a lot of us have. Was there a moment where you got to? I just think like a cool like moment for you where you're like, oh man, like can't believe like this is where I'm at. Like 4 years later, like was there been like a show or a place where your art has been that was just like, wow?
Yeah, I think I've had a couple like, celeb type people take interest in the work. So that's always like a fun little like,
that's cool. Yeah.
I had, and I really like him as a person too. So it wasn't just like, random celebrity, but a friend or an interior designer that I had done some work with did some work for Jay Shetty's podcast and like did the interiors for it. And so she was like, hey, I'm going to try to get you on, Jay's radar. And so finally Jay started following me on Instagram, like, oh crap, this is great. Like, and he was like, hey, interested in the work. And so he invited me out to the show. We met, like, that was a very cool moment, like validating, like one, because I think that he's like a person who vibes with what I'm trying to do with my work, like make meaningful work, try to help people find transformation. And so I feel like he does that same thing. So when someone who's kind of like in a similar vein as you validates it, that feels great. So I think that, and then I think my more recent shows here in Nashville and Franklin, the one I just did in Leaper's Fork, we did a collector's dinner, and then we also did just like a show. And I mean, the turnout was amazing. And like, The response to the work was amazing. It's just like really great people, just really encouraging and validating what you're doing with the art. Feels very like an accomplishment. Like sure, Jay Shetty makes you feel good. Like those moments throughout, you're like, oh man, that's so cool that XYZ person. But then even more like, man, people I really do life with and respect are like giving me my flowers, and like that cool. That's really special. Like,
yeah, that's awesome. Cause the people who are probably closest to you will be the most honest with you, right? You know?
Yeah.
And hearing that they actually like love it is cool. What's like when you're in the studio, what's like the motivation, or like what kind of gets your creative like juices going? Like, is it music? Is it just a thought? What kind of usually motivates you?
It can be a lot of things, but I do think that like the go-to is music. Like, I think music is the most powerful, probably art form, at least to me. I always tell people I'm like so jealous of musicians a little bit, because I'm like, I just feel like there's not like, sure, people have cried in front of my paintings. People have been moved by them. I mean, they put them in their house. They live with them. Like, that's such a cool thing for me to do. Musicians don't really get that. People listen, it's digital, whatever, but I have like a physical thing in their home. That is neat. That's cool. But there's something about music that just cuts to your emotions so quickly and can move you and can inspire you. So that is my, for sure, creative, like, fire is music. Like, I don't have any like TV really on in the studio. Maybe if I'm doing like boring stuff, like stretching a canvas or something like that. But if I'm like, and it's not even that often you think like, oh man, you're an artist, you're every day in the studio getting to really just like bring creativity to life. Well, I mean, at least half the time in the studio is doing like the mechanics of
the prep work,
shipping,
and things like that.
and the prep work and all that. But there are these, like, I do try to hold those like moments sacred when I'm like, okay, like I'm going in to do something. I don't know what's going to come out of it. What's the music that I'm feeling right now? I honestly, I just had I just made 2 pieces that are some of my favorite works that I've done. They're huge, like 8-foot pieces. And I was just like, man, I just want to kind of be a little more playful, a little more open with these pieces. And I couldn't think of any music that was really inspiring me. Usually it's like an album. I'll be like stuck in an album, and that really informs the work. But I don't know, like all of a sudden I just felt myself like interested in putting on Middle Eastern like folk music. Yeah. And like, I don't know if it was because of what's happening in the world. There's all this conflict in the Middle East, and like just having like a different energy brought out like a different part of my creativity, I think. And so, yeah, I think that these pieces turned out differently because of the musical energy that was like embedded into them. So yeah, definitely music for sure.
For sure, dude. Yeah, I feel that. I feel like whenever it gets down to like Florida and I like put on country music for like, or when it gets to like, 60 degrees in Florida and I put on country music, my whole vibe changes. So I get that.
Totally.
Yeah. Music's pretty powerful, man, and changing like the way you think or the way you feel,
Oh, so much. Like, I mean, I could name you all the albums that were like, that influenced different shows. Like leading up to Leapers was, Bon Iver's new album, and Amanda Cook's Worship album. I don't know if you're familiar with Amanda's work. But Amanda's become a good friend. She's here in Nashville, and just like, man, it's just like, music really can impact your creativity for sure.
It's really cool, man. Yeah. I love that. I love that. It's cool to see, like, cause I'm sure like knowing you too, like seeing the work that you've done, like I've seen the piece that you have in, like at Pastor Andrew's house and like in that thing. And I know like the story behind it and everything too, where I'm like, it's cool to have that, like, it just probably came from a moment of you like sitting there and staring at that canvas for probably a little while and kind of feeling that, right? Is that kind of how it goes? It's like, it's not like you just get in there in 30 minutes, you're done. You're in there for like a little while.
I mean, it depends on what I'm doing. There's some work that like, okay, some of my LA galleries, like some of my old work, and it's very just like, I'm repeating a piece that I've done not 50, well, let's say 20 other times. And
Sure.
so there's not a lot of like new creativity that I'm applying to that. And some of that I'm trying to bring like a studio assistant in to kind of help me with some of that stuff where it's like, this is not fresh, new creativity. So it's like, how can they put the border on this? And how can like, so that's kind of like one lane. Then there's like a lane that I would call commissions where it's like Andrew and Christina come to me and they're like, hey, we want to tell this story through this piece. And there's a lot of like prep work, even on like pen and paper. There's an iPad, like, hey, like, here's what I'm feeling when you gave me all of this information about the meaning and the scriptures and the things that want to inform this piece. This is what visually came to me. So it depends on how much the person wants to collaborate in that. Like I'm the type of artist that is willing to allow for that kind of meaning making to happen together. And I love that. I do really enjoy that. I do think my favorite, which most people probably would be the same way, is like where you don't really have a lot of constraints to what's happening. And you can just literally go in there and just be like, what do I want to cook up today? Like what's really like moving me? What colors? What kind of processes? Like just where I just get into that experimental mode. And I'm just that type of person. I'm an explorer. I'm curious. So like, that's my favorite type of art to make, but all of it, I try to like find a gratitude and an appreciation for that. Like I get to do this piece that people still resonate with that I made 5 years ago. So
it's cool, man. Yeah. It's cool to see, dude. It's also cool to hear like, there's so many different like avenues and ventures for creativity. Like I feel like in some ways this like the podcast is my creative like outlet and what I'm doing. And even what you said there a minute ago, like when I first started doing the show like a year ago, I would be like, I overstructured myself where I like planned out everything and all this kind of stuff. And then I listened back to it and I'm like, oh, it didn't feel like very natural. It just didn't, you know what I mean? It was fine. I got a lot of answers and stuff like that. But have the freedom to just be like let loose, like where does the conversation go? And in your piece, like where does my mind go? Where does my creativity lead me? Could be like a really fun place, you know?
Yes, dude, I love that. And I think you're doing a great job with it too.
Thanks.
Just like, I feel like this talk is very natural. You seem like you've really kind of found your pocket. So I love that when things are more free flowy, more improvisational. And I think people are kind of just tired of maybe formulas a little bit. It's like we have so many algorithms and formulas and things that are like that in our lives. It's like I think we want humans to be like human. Like we don't want you to be like a robotic podcaster. We want you to just be like yourself with your own interesting reactions and things.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, I think there's definitely, I mean, I don't listen to podcasts that much, but the one that I do is the Theo Von podcast.
Yeah, 100%.
And not consistently, but I'm like, just the way they're just off the cuff and like you don't really know what's coming. Like I think there's definitely a desire for that.
Yeah.
If you're good at kind of doing that type of stuff.
I don't know if I've shared this story before, but I've known for a while that like even like a while, it's like, I want to do a podcast. I think this would be fun. And I try to be that person where I'm like, I can get into thinking something would be fun. And then just be like, it's not really the thing that I should get into. So I really sat and thought about it for a while. And I was like, no, I do want to do this. And I kept trying to find like the niche and the thing I wanted to do. And it was Theo's podcast on that he interviewed a New York City garbage man. Do you remember that one? It's such a random one.
I don't think I saw that one.
Either way, it was so cool because I listened to like 2 or almost 3 hours of it. And just like the guy talking about the system and all that. And I just found it so fascinating. And I was like, that's what I want to do. I want to like hear from people that just aren't like, I listened to a couple of podcasts. And one the other day I was listening to, it was just this artist who like blew up, who's very like not with a label, not like popular or anything like that, but his song just resonated with people. And it was just an interesting conversation of like how people are just really looking for authenticity right now. Like you can smell, people can sense like what's not authentic. And I'm sure in art is the same way. You can sense what's like, this is printed or just like, generic, or this like took time. And people can feel that a lot more now. I don't know what it is, but I just feel like there's something about like people today that's like, we can sense inauthenticity. That was hard to get out, but you know what I mean? And so
I think so.
Yeah.
I think it's because I think we've gone through such a digital and like even the AI stuff, it's like we're just so saturated with that now. I think people are like, okay, like that was interesting for a while, and I think it still is interesting. I mean, AI is going to change the landscape of our lives, but I do think that there's a pushback of like, man, I'm a human being. Like I like analog things. I like physical things. I like seeing a human have a real, not predictable reaction to things, because I can get a predictable algorithmic reaction pretty easily nowadays. But it's like, to be human is so rare. Like like I don't know. I think that hopefully we start falling back in love with just being human and being kind to one another and doing art, even though people are afraid that AI is going to take over. I don't know. I just hope that it somehow frees us up to be more creative.
It's my hope so too. I heard the take that I heard, I think the other day, was that like we're so saturated with algorithms that are focused to us that it's like when we hear, it's like it becomes like so targeted, and it's marketing, and it's like it's so much out there is targeted for selling something or pushing a certain idea or thought or whatever. And when we get into that algorithm, we tend to be stuck in that algorithm. And so it's like 100%. When you hear something that's outside of your algorithm that's like authentic, it'll just like blow your mind. You're like, whoa, what is this? This feels real. So
that's cool.
Hoping for more of that, man. I think that's what's cool about like art in many forms, what you're doing, podcasts, music, all of that. And dude, well, and I appreciate you being on the time. I usually do this like with 1 more minute left. Maybe what's like one encouraging thing? I know there's so much we talked about, from making a big move to, obviously following your dream and on that, all that. Maybe what's one encouraging thing you'd leave us with before we head out here?
I think, I'm talking about this a lot now, but this idea of artistic intelligence and that we have AI, we have artificial intelligence. I think that there is it says it in the name, it's artificial. Like, it's not that it's not valuable, it's just that it's built off of us. And that's fine, it's useful. But I want to encourage people that you have always been an artist. Everyone was an artist when they were a kid. God is the great artist. Like, the first thing that God is doing is creative work that we're seeing. And so we're made in the image of God. And I think that every single person has that spark of not only creativity, but even artistry in them. And I would challenge listeners to think through that. Like, where am I an artist? And it's not like, it doesn't have to be singing, doesn't have to be painting. It's like on your podcast or in your relationship with your kid or your wife or whatever it is. Like, where do you bring a unique perspective, a unique humanity, just a really powerful creativity to?
Yeah.
And I would say lean into that, because that's what the world needs more of. So
that's awesome, man. Well, dude, thank you so much again for taking some time. I really appreciate it. And it was good catching up with you.
Yeah, man. Good to see you.